You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.
Welcome to Under the Shell, presented by Inside the Black and Gold. I'm Brennan YSL.
Sam Jane.
And Michael House.
And this week, we recap a little bit of Maryland athletics, but really we take a trip down memory lane as the Under the Shell story comes to a close. Guys, before we get into all that, we got to talk about the sports from the past week. Biggest story, Maryland men's lacrosse not in the NCAA tournament. Instant reactions to that.
When Sam Jane bangs a gavel, your season is done. I told you guys that I thought this season was cooked. I think it was in March, I want to say. And it lived.
It was after the first Penn State game. It was, probably March 25th.
Yeah, it lived up to the billing. Maryland misses the NCAA tournament after losing in the first round of the Big Ten tournament. It's a shocking scene when you consider the success John Tillman's had here, but it isn't that shocking considering the start that this group got off to. You know, they won the Big Ten, but it was kind of a down year in the conference. And I think that they really just lived off their program reputation and name more than their actual resume. This was an extremely disappointing year and falls well below the standard of what Maryland lacrosse has set for themselves. I don't think you can push the panic button at all on the program, on Tillman, or anything like that. You're going to have a down year at points, but it still doesn't excuse the fact that, you know, not even getting yourself to the dance. We were talking about national title hopes before this season when we brought on our lacrosse guests, and to not even get a chance to compete in the tournament, I mean, it's a pretty shocking downfall for the program, to say the least.
Yeah, I mean, it really all falls down to that early non-conference stretch with the Princeton loss, the Syracuse loss, and the Notre Dame loss that really did it in for the Terps, I would think. And I thought John Tillman had an interesting takeaway I saw earlier today where the strength of schedule he believes was devalued this year. And he said, quote, "Is that something we should adjust to? I don't know if we will or we won't." And I think that brings up an interesting topic of if you lose those early games, should you continue doing that in the future? I mean, is that worthwhile for a team? And I think Missy Mahar probably spoke about this either this season or the season before about those early scheduling issues. Like, is it worth it knowing that there is a chance you're going to lose all three of those games? Obviously, Maryland doesn't expect that's going to happen, but you know, if you have that tough scheduling and it doesn't get adjusted for, you know, when postseason time comes around, it raises an interesting question. I would keep. I don't think that that's going to happen every single year when you lose those three games and you have that sort of stretch.
Yeah, I think for Maryland, you got to schedule. It's tough because that's what has made them, when they've had teams that didn't have as much talent, have the experience playing tough opponents, make it to championship weekend. For Maryland, the formula makes a lot of sense. You could say if they played 4 teams that they knew they could have beat and they finished the season with 11 wins, you know, maybe they're in. But it's one of those things where, like, yeah, Maryland's always done really well when they make the tournament, but I can't imagine they would do anything differently. I think the thing is, the most frustrating thing was they started off the year after starting 1-3. They were behind the 8 ball to make the tournament. The Richmond game, which they won that game, they're probably in. They were one win away from making the NCAA tournament, but you know, they had 6 chances and they didn't get it done. And at a certain point, it's like, you know, if you don't win one of those 6 games, they don't deserve to do it. And you know, if you look at the NCAA tournament, they had wins over Virginia, and that's it. That was in the field. So if you're only beating one tournament team and you played a bunch, you know, you probably don't deserve to get in.
Yeah, I mean, when you're 14th in RPI, which is the 3rd best among bubble teams, like, I don't want to hear about how, you know, strength of schedule wasn't valued. You didn't have a top 5 win. So you can't sit here and be like, well, we lost to top 5 teams, so we should get boosted up. That's not how that works, right? You have to beat some of those teams in order to really, you know, use it as a boost. So the offense wasn't good enough. You know, you had only 2 players who's finished with 20 plus goals, Leo Johnson and Eric Spanos. And I just don't think that between the offense and then Brian Rupel in goal, you know, he had a couple of really nice starts. Obviously, it was just really up and down. And I think we expected him to be a lot more better. Wow, that was bad. A lot better than he actually was. So just a really down season, and it's not going to get easier, guys. I mean, 79% of their scoring production is departing, according to Yahoo Sports. So they're going to have to really bounce back in the portal. They obviously have a couple of really nice options, both in their incoming class and current freshmen. Matt Higgins, I thought, had a good season. So we'll have to see what happens, in terms of what the 2027 campaign looks like. But obviously a very disappointing ending. As for the women's lacrosse team, Brendan, they haven't gotten to the end of their season quite yet. About to embark on a postseason run that we're hopeful can save a disgustingly bad Maryland athletics year. So, what are the women's lacrosse team's chance? They have a first round bye, earn the number 3 seed. So, what are we looking at here for the Terps in the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, the 3 seed is big specifically because it's the last team that gets that double bye. Weren't quite sure if they were going to end up getting that, but very big that they did. The side of the bracket they're on is a bit odd because they're going to play the winner of Princeton and Rutgers. Princeton, they beat 16-12 earlier this year at home. Rutgers, they also beat at home this year, 18-11. So 2 teams they have beat, 2 teams I would expect them to beat again. And then they'll take on, it's a winner of a bunch of games, but I would expect it to be either Navy or Syracuse. Syracuse, the team they beat to open their season, a team I would expect them to beat again. I think the matchup is very possibly going to be Maryland-Navy. If Maryland can take care of Princeton Rutgers, I think Maryland's better. I think Maryland, obviously got the 3 seed, is the best team in that side of the bracket. I would expect them to make it to championship weekend. A big bonus that they don't have to play that additional game and also get 2 games at home on the way to the semifinals. So should be interesting. They'll play this weekend on the 10th in College Park. And then, I think this team, as I said all year, it's going to come down to offensive production and their best players making plays. Do I think this team has a good enough roster to win the national championship? Yes, they've shown it. They've gone toe-to-toe with Northwestern, the best team in the country. But I just think that Maryland beating probably either UNC and then Northwestern, twice, or beating both those teams in the same weekend is going to be really, really difficult for them. So, Johns Hopkins is the 4 seed. They beat them in the Big Ten tournament. We saw that they could beat them and then play a competent game against Northwestern. I just don't know if they can put on 2 A+ performances, which is what it's going to take to win the national championship. But this team has a very good shot to win the national championship. And as Sam said, save what has been a pretty bad year. That's probably a nice way of saying it for all Maryland sports teams.
Yeah, and a big contributor to that has been the Maryland baseball team. Absolutely dismal series against the Wolverines. Were swept. And so now Maryland baseball, I think we can officially say, Michael, I got the gavel out last week and you clowned me. I thought it should have been brought out much earlier, but I'm just willing to, I'm waiting for you to admit that you were wrong the whole time, that all of your baseball takes, the entire portion of Under the Shell. Brendan, has he ever had a good or an accurate Maryland baseball take? I can't think of one off the top of my head.
He's muted, but maybe in 2023.
I did. I predicted Chris Kopian would be one of the best freshmen in the Big Ten. I predicted that Sam Honar addition was going to be big for the team. Other than that, I mean, it has been a disappointing season. And Sam, I am going to join you in putting down my gavel.
Yeah, bring out the Old Spice gavel.
So, for the old Bay gavel. Yeah. So the Terps get swept by Michigan, like you said. One goes to extra innings on the Friday game. They lose 2-1. I just think after that, just kind of collapsed on the Terps. They get run ruled the Saturday game. And then they're in it in the Sunday game, at least trying to save some of that series. But they lose 8-7 after Michigan has some late hits, some late runs to win that one. It's going to be an interesting postseason for Matt Swope and for this Terps baseball team. I don't know exactly where they go from here. I assume Swope is coming back. And as I've said, this program faces many challenges in terms of the spending compared to some of the other teams in the Big Ten. They're one of the lowest spending baseball programs there. Obviously, they have the new facility, but can that money go towards building the roster? Are they having the scholarship spots that they need to fill a roster? Do they have any NIL to keep a guy like Chris Akopian in future years? Like, these are questions that need to be posed to Jim Smith, whether this baseball program can get back to where it was, let's say 2022, 2023 even. But yeah, it's been a disappointing season for sure. And, I think Coach Matt Swope is going to reflect on it. He's going to find what he needs to do to keep this program going. And look, this guy bleeds Maryland through and through. I don't think there is another coach.
Oh my God.
Passion
Oh
to
my God.
Before we get back to the show, here's a quick word from our sponsor. The Catalyst to the Game is brought to you by Catalyst Hot Dogs. Catalyst brought the Jersey Dog to the DMV, featuring premium dry-aged Black Angus all-beef hot dogs made in Maryland, served with handmade toppings, including hot onions, relish, and their signature Texas chili sauce. And don't miss their original garlic knot dogs. Catalyst always offers vegan dogs as well as gluten-free buns. Shout out gluten-free buns, because Catalyst has food for everyone. Find them in CQ Stadium in Section 14 and the Xfinity Center in Section 210. Tell the people a hot dog is a sandwich. All right, now here is more Under the Shell.
The propaganda that we're pushing right now for Matt Swope is
There
just
is no
unbelievable.
propaganda. They're one of the lowest.
You know what, Michael?
I'm actually on this take. I'm actually with Mike, but
Brendan, Michael, I bleed red just like Matt Swope. That doesn't mean that he can find the transfer portal any better than me or any better than any other coach can. Not one result has shown that this guy is capable of leading a turnaround quite yet.
There's a lot of caveats to it, and being able to
a lot of caveats. He's been here 3 seasons. 3.
Being able to build a roster in this climate of college athletics is tough, and
oh my God,
I do not think that
wait, he's been here 3 seasons or 2 seasons?
3.
This is third.
This is third year.
Third year, Brendan. Not one Big Ten tournament appearance. Not an
sure
appearance.
I realize.
I mean, look, you can look at the stats. Maryland remains one of the best offensive teams in the Big Ten, and they're always going to have that niche with Swope, where he's got the motor preferences. He's one of the best hitting coaches in the country. Ask any player on the roster, they'll tell you that. It is the same stuff that pops up with these late inning struggles, the pitching struggling. And I think about it, like a good starting pitcher, a good reliever, that's like an O lineman for football. Like, that's going to cost you a decent amount of money to get. I don't know if they have that money to do so.
Michael, it baffles me how we sit here and say they've had the same issues over 3 seasons, and you can't look at the one person who's been consistent at the helm for those 3 seasons and come to a conclusion that's not Matt Swope needs to be better. And if he's not better, then there's a serious problem. And I think right now
there is no question. He does have to be better. Like, you got to figure out.
It's code red right now. It's code red, pal. It's code red in the
roster construction thing, especially with the pitching staff, because the offense is always going to.
Michael, how can we sit here and say Michael Locksley doesn't deserve another year at the job when he deals with the same roster constraints, probably way more than Matt Swope has to deal with? They just built a huge new facility for Maryland baseball. I don't care that their NIL budget is bad. Every Maryland team has to deal with a bad NIL budget. Miss me with that. Figure out a way to build a winning program. Rob Vaughn did it for years here.
It was a different.
Rob Vaughn did it before the NIL era.
What are we? You're going to tell me that, Brendan? No. Let me talk now. You're going to tell me that Purdue has a better NIL budget than Maryland. Purdue, Iowa, better. I can go down the list of terrible teams, terrible athletic programs that have a better record than Maryland baseball. Over the past 3 seasons, Matt Swope and Maryland, the worst combined record in the Big Ten of any school in our conference.
Can we fact check that, Brendan? And
go ahead. I fact checked it before this episode.
I mean, Mike, you fact checked it before the episode. What do you want?
This is a program that
Sam. They scored 20. They scored 23 runs yesterday.
Yeah. Well, I'm done with the excuses, man. Buck up. Make a Big Ten.
Okay, Sam, let me ask you this. Starting Wednesday, May 7th, you're the head coach of Maryland baseball. What are you doing to change the program?
You know what? I don't get paid like a state employee to figure that question out, Brendan. That's Matt Swope's job. All right? How much is Matt Swope making, Michael? How much?
In the 200,000 range.
200,000. The state of Maryland, your tax dollars are going to Matt Swope and Michael Locksley.
I just don't understand why this is. I don't understand why this is the hill you're dying on.
It's not the hill I'm dying on.
This is an absurd hill.
What are we saying here? What is Michael? What is your justification that Matt Swope's going to figure it out? What data point? What singular data point? One. Give me one legitimate data point that shows that he's proven he can flip a roster around and suddenly become a contender in the Big Ten. Give me one data point and I'll shut up.
One data point? I mean, they're top
I don't want to hear the offense.
That is the data point.
Whoa, you can't ask for data and then cherry pick the data you get.
Bro,
So that's a little ridiculous.
Yeah. Okay.
Come on.
Okay. Sure, guys. Matt Swope's going to lead the turf. You know what? I'm changing my tune. It's to Omaha next year, baby. Maryland baseball's in Omaha.
I'll give you my stat point. Maryland baseball, they're second in the Big Ten in runs. They're tied for second in the Big Ten in homers. They're tied for first in RBI. Like, I can keep listing you off all these stats about how good.
So maybe it's a Jimmy Jackson discussion then. That's the issue, Sam.
This is what I'm saying. It's a pitching issue. I don't want to put it on Jimmy. Look at Jimmy's track record from where he worked before. They were pumping out MLB-proof pitchers. Like, he knows how to coach. I think it's more so just the funding and the support that this program's getting. Like, I think it's hard to build a roster at Maryland with the pitching staff. Swope knows how to coach the offense. The offense is always there.
Yep.
That's
just like Michael Locksley. Michael Locksley knows how to coach receivers, guys. Hey, Locksley's coached receivers. We should keep him around for another 10 seasons.
I'm not a big fan of comparing Swope to Locksley because
how are they any different?
How are they any different?
Well, if Michael Locksley was entering year 4 with this record, you would be calling for his head 100%.
I would be 100%.
So then what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Football's also a revenue sport. Like, comparing revenue to non-revenue is like two different playing
fields. You're the guy who came up with the out-of-conference Adam nickname for Adam Hughes.
Yeah,
Adam Hughes has performed better. Adam Hughes has performed better than Matt Swope, 100%.
In the
NIL era, not really.
I don't know if that is true at all. There is no shot that Adam Hughes is a better coach than that.
We could move off this topic because I don't even understand.
We're this combo go off the rails, bringing up out of conference Adam, bro.
I mean, this is
out of conference.
What about missing the tournament? I mean, this is ridiculous.
I mean, I don't know what you want like people to expect at this point. Like, I think Matt Swope is living off the fact that he went to Maryland, that he loves Maryland, which I don't doubt, and that he's a good hitting coach, which I don't doubt either. I've never once said Matt Swope isn't an elite to very good hitting coach. There is no question.
Among the best.
Okay, among the best, sure. We could say they're the 6th best offense in the Big Ten during conference play. How about that? Because that's how many runs, that's where they rank in the conference. So he's the 6th best hitting coach in the Big Ten, if that's how we're going to go with it.
I'm number 5 right now.
When is the last time you think Maryland field hockey and men's lacrosse didn't make the NCAA tournament? Both teams same year didn't make the NCAA tournament. What a down year for this is wild.
Speaking of, we didn't even talk about just in general how bad this season.
Big picture. What a wild.
Big picture wise, Harrison Rich, our good friend, looked at football, men's and women's hoops, and then men's lacrosse. Worst combined season in 32 years. A 47-44 record across the 4 sports. Someone pointed out too, the year of 1993 and 94, Maryland men's basketball made the NCAA tournament and they got to the Sweet 16. I can't think of a worse year in Maryland sports history. It's been absolutely atrocious. There's no question that this was the worst year that we covered.
Yeah, that's for sure.
I think lumping in the women's team there is a little crazy. I mean, they had a plethora of injuries. They didn't lose until after the new year. Like, you lose your leading scorer from the season before. Your starting freshman guard tears her ACL within the first few games. Bree McDaniel didn't play at all. Like, I'm not lumping in Brenda and the women's team in that at all. I'm staying out of that. That's not me.
Yes, I think that's fair. That's fair, but when they lost. It's not like
that's the totality of the entire 4 sports. There's no I'm staying out of this. It's a fact. It's a statistic.
Yeah, women's basketball. Under the Shell podcast has well documented the way women's basketball could have been a Final Four team this year had everybody been healthy and some people made big jumps. That didn't happen. They had a lot of injuries and some people regressed. Like it, They lost in the round of 32.
We're holding these teams up to the standard, right? That's all you talk about, Michael, is right. What is their program standard? Well, women's basketball has set a higher program standard than being on the bubble. Men's lacrosse has set a way higher program standard than not making the NCAA tournament. The men's basketball team has surely set a higher standard than regressing back to the Mark Turgeon final year records type. And the football team, well, we know about that. So
I don't know about that.
I think at this point, like, there's no question this was an incredibly down year. Jim Smith faces a critical season here upcoming. They need the football and men's basketball team, which, let's face it, biggest revenue drivers they have. They need a big rebound. I'm higher on the men's basketball team. The further and further I get away from the offseason, I become lower and lower on the football team. But I'm very interested to see, Under the Shell won't be around. Maybe we'll come back for some surprise episodes. But this next upcoming season is incredibly important for Smith and the athletic department.
Did we even talk about the Maryland softball team hosting the Big Ten tournament and not being in the tournament itself, and them having to put that graphic out? Like, how?
I was seeing some tweets about how it should be like the World Cup, where if you host, your team automatically gets in.
That's tough. I will say, this is
Sam, you don't have any comments about that?
I don't, man.
We're talking about why are we talking about Lauren Carn? What are we doing?
Lauren Carn? Buddy, Lauren Carn better figure out. You can go back to our podcast from the beginning of the softball season. I said if Lauren Carn doesn't figure it out, she officially gets on the hot seat because our guy Mark Montgomery had the Terps firing not firing. I shouldn't. Still were bad.
He actually resigned. I think I forget exactly. They parted. I don't remember what happened, but
they were much better before the Lauren Carn era.
Sam, why did he resign?
Do we know why he left at this point? I literally have no idea. They parted ways. Like
a lot of rumors. Let's just say that. Let's just say both Diamonds have coaches that I am extremely skeptical about. So we'll see what happens.
You can stay skeptical on Swope. I'm not skeptical of Swope at all. I don't think this is his issue at all.
Yeah.
But are you skeptical of Lauren Carn, Michael Howes?
Very skeptical of Lauren Carn and Adam Hughes.
I'm so shocked that Michael isn't skeptical of Swope.
Michael, if you're the athletic director of Maryland, what's the first move you make?
What's the first move I make? I'm giving the Terps baseball team.
Other than I was going to say, this is what a ridiculous.
I am giving them 30 scholarships.
If you guys want to see what it's like to be in bed with a program or a head coach, you can tune into the Maryland baseball section of Under the Shell every week.
No, none of that is true. I'm giving the Terps baseball team 30 scholarship spots, first of all. So it's got to be even playing field at the top of the conference. I mean, UCLA is undefeated in conference play right now in the Big Ten. I assume they have all scholarship spots plus NIL. So I'm not expecting there to be high NIL for Maryland, but if they can keep a guy like Chris Akopian, that's huge. If they can keep a guy like Hollis Porter, that's huge. Like, you need NIL to do little spot moves like that, and then have the scholarship spots to fill out the rest of the roster with guys that you feel confident pitching in late in games to hold a lead, to be able to start and not be down 10-0 by the end of the second inning.
Yeah. All right, we've heard enough from you, Michael. Let's move on to my game that I wanted to do. Michael, I know who you'll pick for this first question, but guys, it's been a long 4 years. You guys, we've talked about Maryland athletics. You guys have been two of my best friends throughout college. It's been a pleasure recording every week. We haven't missed a single episode. This is our first ever episode without a guest. So we've gotten, I think, Brendan, it's close to over 150 interviews, right?
If you include all the special episodes
and the special episodes, I think it's over 150.
Probably. I mean, we have 113 official episodes, a couple bonuses in there, but if you include the 100th episode spectacular and you include the NIL episode and you include the Len Bias, Jordan McNair episode, probably around that number for sure.
Yeah. It's really been a hell of a ride. We've covered things from coaching firings to new hires to teams, dramatically buzzer beaters, player transfers. We've watched the NIL era completely change. We've, completely seen the athletic landscape shift over here. We've had scandals in College Park that we've covered. You guys are terrific reporters. You're even better podcasters, in my opinion, and I wouldn't want to do Under the Shell with anybody else. So in honor of that, I want to recap our time doing Under the Shell with a few things. One, I want to say, Brendan, and give kudos. Brendan has been an elite producer. Every week you hear this, it's because of him. Probably the hardest working in terms of just being diligent in his time management, always keeping us on track. Like, this is a guy who manages to keep me and Michael organized, which is very hard, as you can see, because we can delve into ridiculous.
It's horrible. It's terrible.
Ridiculous topics like Lauren Card and Matt Swope's job viability. Brendan,
we get into more niche discussions than most podcasts.
This is true. Brendan is an awesome producer, and anybody, any company, anybody would be lucky to have him. So love you, big guy. Michael, podcast co-host, guy who is going to bring every week some sort of take that's going to make you open your mouth with a wide gasp. I mean, it might be good, it might be bad, but Michael will bring it every single week. Always have appreciated his candor. He's a guy who does his research. I mean, in the beginning days, the first 2 years, Michael would come in with pages of statistics ready to go, ready to rip and roar. I mean,
his notebook, in person, his notebook was full.
Filled. Absolutely filled. I mean, this is a young man who this summarizes Michael. Michael came in and from the jump of the end of sophomore year, randomly proposed on a podcast, what if Maryland walks into Camp Randall and beats Billy Edwards next year? And then they did it, and he was coming out of it saying Maryland's going to make the college football playoff. So I think that just shows that shows the duality of Michael. He's always thinking ahead. He always has really smart ideas, but then he's going to follow it up with something outrageous. So it makes for a really good podcast co-host. It makes for an even more entertaining friend, and I couldn't be happier to have hosted Under the Shell alongside him for years. And this guy truly, every week is one of the hardest working people I know, and I can only respect him. He's an A-tier journalist and an A-tier homie. So, Michael, appreciate you, my man. Shout out Big Mike forever.
Shout out Big Mike. Let's re-record the intro so I can say Michael Big Mike.
No, sorry. You should have done that 25 minutes ago.
No, I mean, just go.
I don't even know. How did that even start, dude? We're all just pulling an intro from a long ago. How did that even start?
It was a La Plata dorm thing. There's some tweets.
He still doesn't know how to say the name of my dorm from freshman year, bro.
There is some tweets from Sean McGinnis you can look up from freshman year, give you a good insight of the type of character I had that year. Sam knows.
Hey, shout out Walt the Wizard's vodka. Shout out Walt the Wizard vodka.
Yeah. Just going off of what Sam said, I mean, I was so grateful to be surrounded by these two great journalists that I met at freshman orientation. And, I look back a lot of like, what would have happened if I wasn't at this freshman orientation with these two stars? And you guys really pushed me in the right direction. Seeing your guys' creativity and your hard work kind of bounces off of me. And, I really appreciate being surrounded by you two. Brendan, like Sam said, incredible producer for the pod. Kind of the mastermind behind everything. Even when we had to record our first episode freshman year 3 times. Sam, incredible friend, incredible roommate. And like I said, I mean, just being able to bounce off ideas with you, talk about journalism, talk about the stuff that we're working on. I mean, I'm so grateful to be surrounded by you and Brendan. It's been an unreal 4 years. Trying to hold back tears right now.
Wow, Mike, well said. I think the biggest thing for me is that we've gotten so much better as podcasters, also as reporters, also as understanders of the world, and really understanders of Maryland athletics. I think a lot of people come in and freshman year like, oh my God, I go to a Big Ten school. This is so cool. Maryland's going to be so good. And you kind of realize like that's just not the case. I think for me, honestly, given how much I think all three of us were just surrounded by Maryland athletics in so many different ways. You guys were editing so many articles for the Diamondback before them, writing articles. We were all so involved in what was going on in Maryland athletics. I found this hour a week to be kind of therapeutic. Mm-hmm. And also I think, we heard so many fascinating stories from so many different people. The vision started as being Under the Shell, talking to people who don't usually get talked to. We went away from that slightly, but I think, but we still our final guest ever, super Under the Shell. Like we still kind of had those roots where we're going to tell some of the stories most people are not telling, ended up having a bunch of coaches on.
And I think we got those people to talk about things that people don't know. Like we got Under the Shell people who people know, you know?
Absolutely. I think both of you guys, to your credit, much better reporters, much better journalists, much better critical thinkers than myself. And it's been an honor to share a microphone with you. I want to think back, though, the fact that this podcast started in person at the McKeldin Library.
Yeah.
You know, audio, but like, what the heck are we doing? I think the biggest thing, you know, we before Sam left College Park for a period of time, we sat down and we shuffled random episodes, went to random points in the interviews, and without a doubt, every single one of us could like figure out, okay, we knew what they were talking about. We remembered a certain thing from that interview. Our Under the Shell episode ball knowledge the bag is pretty deep. And with the exception of some episodes, like we had a decent schedule of getting guests. I don't really remember how we used to do it because it seems like it's gotten a lot harder, but you know, we're pretty darn good at staying on top of it and always having the fact that we never missed an episode, never missed a guest, to me in the last 4 years is the most impressive part.
Yeah.
It's been pretty much the only thing I've done every week of college. It's crazy.
I do have to shout out my father, Big Steve Howes, for helping us out those first few episodes of getting guests. I don't know if, you know, very loyal
Shout out
listeners
Steve.
remember James Gist episode 4. That was kind of the start of everything.
James Gist was the podcast that it didn't end our podcast. It started our podcast.
Yeah.
Truly, what a legendary interview. We should go back and just listen. If you're tired of listening to us, just go listen to that episode.
Would you rather have an itchy butthole or an itchy throat? That's the question everybody wants.
Maybe the greatest discussion on Under the Shell history.
100%. I think that Brendan, you said something. It's almost therapeutic, right? Like this week, I looked forward to every week, and we've dealt with some awful teams. Like it's not like we got to cover national champions, right? Like, and the fact that we got to come on here and talk about just Maryland sports with our best friends while also being able to learn and understand people and the community better, I thought was super, super cool. So to give you guys a sense of what Under the Shell has been to all of us, guys, while I talk, I didn't tell you about this because I wanted to surprise you, but I came up with 3 Under the Shell moments for you guys to kind of get an insight into who we were and how our podcast came together. So my number one thing, I got these all written down. My number one thing that I want to mention, and I really hope nobody from Merrill College is listening. One of my favorite memories that I've ever had in college was we spent probably 6 hours in the night media bubble, which any UMD journalism heads that are listening, you know, all alone, grinding, mostly Brendan doing the work, but we were all really contributing to try to.
And my computer died. It was so frustrating. His
computer dies. We're all like, oh my gosh, you know, this is terrible, whatever. So we go and as we're wrapping up, Michael, who's a big McDonald's guy, gets McDonald's, and all of a sudden a bottle of champagne pops out in addition to the McDonald's. We pop the bottle and enjoy some chicken nuggets as we wrap up, you know, a deep dive episode. I think that episode, I think it was sophomore year, just solidified how much
freshman year.
I think it really made me, that was right before we left to go away to summer. And I was like, man, like I wouldn't want to do this pod or like go to any other school. Like I love doing this. I love these guys. So I thought that was an awesome moment. Another really hilarious moment that I have written down. The 3 of us had just wrapped up. We were coming back from some random thing. We had finished interviewing Karen Blair, which that's a name for women's basketball fans, former assistant coach, now over at SMU, I believe, right, Brendan?
I thought GT. I thought you said GT.
No, GT. Sorry about that. Yeah, GT. SMU, different Maryland legend.
That's David Evans went there.
Yeah.
Never came on the podcast despite numerous requests.
No, he did not. So we're walking home at this point. This is going back to the dorms, the 3 of us. It is a very, very windy night in College Park. Now, I think it was like hurricane level gusts. These guys might disagree, but
it's barely windy. It's barely windy.
Walking back, and I was coming down up or down McKeldin Hill, and I like tripped and fell backwards because the wind blew me over. And I fell on top of my backpack, and my computer was smashed to pieces. And we had to record the episode, like our part of the episode. So I had to record in Michael's dorm for that segment. So if you ever go back and listen to the Karen Blair episode, I was doing that not on my own laptop. I thought it was pretty funny.
It was
And then my
hilarious.
last story that I think is a good one. You notice that we've only ever gotten one men's basketball guest. There's a reason for that. We have tried to get on Kevin Willard. We tried to get on Buzz Williams, but Johnson and I he has a pretty dry sense of humor. He's a funny guy. He's the spokesperson, like PR guy for Maryland basketball. One time when we reached out to John asking him for, I think it was Don Carey. It wasn't even like Jameer Young or Hakeem or any of those guys. And he said, and I quote, "Nah, everyone has a podcast these days." And so that was it's hard to clap.
To be fair, we did get Jordan Geronimo.
We did. You kind of have to just be like, yeah, you're not wrong, John. Everyone does have a podcast.
I mean, respect. But we did get Jordan Geronimo. We had a great discussion about the team's adventures in Italy, which I don't think helped the team at all that year. No. But that was at least interesting.
Yeah. Shout out JG. My favorite Maryland basketball player now, other than Derek Queen, just because we had him on.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, but outside of current members of the team, we have had on our fair share of men's basketball guests. We've had multiple.
Yeah, no, it's true.
I meant current players.
Yeah. But it was on us.
I'm trying to think of what sports we never had on. I don't think we ever had women's tennis. We tried to get the coach on last week. We were respectfully denied. They lost in the NCAA tournament in the first round. I don't think men's golf.
Have we talked to John Phillips?
No, we've not. We did have two women's golf guests. We had their coach and Patricia Makova, of course.
Yeah.
We had Missy.
That might be
field hockey. We had women's
Brendan and Mike, I want to ask, what are your guys' favorite Under the Shell memories, behind the scenes of Under the Shell?
Favorite Under the Shell memories?
Favorite Under the Shell of Under the Shell?
When I broke my leg my sophomore year, that was a pretty tough time for me. And you guys were...
What is going on? What's going on, Mike?
You guys were just amazing and pretty accommodating for me. That's when we made the move to Riverside. I remember we were doing our planning for the big Jordan McNair Lembias story then. We all would hang out in the Worcester dorm lobby. To go.
Because we went to your dorm because you couldn't move.
I could not move. No, I literally could not move. I think that whole time, I was reminded of my friends, and the reason I'm doing it is because this is a fun time, and we still had a fun time despite the many challenges that I had with mobility.
Yeah. No, that's a good one, Michael. What about you, B?
That's good stuff. I think I have a couple things. I remember sitting in the really old, whatever the place we used to record, and we were in the middle of recording an episode. I stretched my foot out, and I hit the circuit breaker, and I just... because we used to record and have no backup or anything, and everything just shut off, and it was so incredibly frustrating. I also remember that we would submit episodes to this little organization called Terrapin Sports Central, and they would have to listen to our episodes before we posted. They would have to listen to our episodes. I just put my fingers up in quotes for those on the audio version of this episode before we posted them. And I remember I had done a podcast in high school, and I just didn't really understand how news worked at all. And we recorded an episode. I was like, I'll edit in 3 days from now. And then I sent it to them. They're like, "What is wrong with you? This is the least relevant podcast ever. We cannot post this." Not that they would post it anyway, because they didn't post any clips. But if you go back in Terrapin Sports Central history, their biggest mistake might have been dropping our podcast.
It was a massive
anyway.
Mistake. We couldn't post clips on their channel. We had to send it in, like you said. I mentioned earlier, our first episode we recorded 3 times. That is why. So big miss for TSC. Love the people there, but we moved on.
We came up though.
Yeah. Then
shout out to Med.
Ours. When we moved to Testudo Times for sophomore year, I think we had so much fire and energy. The way we opened up that year. We started with Ralph Friesian, and we had Jay Sean Jones on. We had who else?
Walt the Wizard Williams.
Shout out to Vodka.
Johnny Holiday. The start.
D. Gray. Just being honest, we had D. Gray, Johnny Holiday, Drew Hamilton.
We had a beef with D. Gray.
That's a good Under the Shell story. Shout out.
That's the good. Shout out D. Gray. We're like, hey, you almost just screwed us over. You want to come on the show? And he's like, sure. I haven't seen his podcast in years. I'm not even sure if he's still doing it, but
yeah,
very funny.
Yeah.
Soon we were able to get our own social media manager too. So it used to be me and Sam chopping up the social clips for the pod. Then we had Eddie Calkins junior year, did a great job. And now our wonderful social media manager, Audrey, who's Done great. And is anybody listening to us who has a podcast or starting next school year, you should definitely hire her to be your social media manager.
Hire Audrey. She's a G.
I completely retweet that statement. I think my favorite memory was editing the Len Bias Jordan McNair episode. That episode took me so much time to edit. And when it was all said and done, it turned out to be really, really, really strong piece. Sam and Mike were certainly up my ass about trying to get it done. I had delayed that podcast for like 2 years. I really didn't want to edit it. It was gonna be such a grind. We finished it, and it ended up being a really, really well received piece and one of our strongest pieces. So
yeah,
I think it's funny to look back at what episodes of ours got the most listens, because I don't necessarily think they're our best episodes, but maybe they were the most interesting and most timely. So
yeah,
like the Harry Geller episode being our most listened to episode to me is always funny. Like it's just because it was very timely. But
yeah, no, that was a good one. I think that when you talked about the Len Bias one, that's something that when my kids ask me, like, when I tell them about like what I did at Maryland, like I'll show them or have them listen to that podcast because I'm really proud of the work we did on that. I thought that was really good. Guys, before we take off, enough of this sentimental crap. I want to ask you a couple of questions about our time.
Yeah, get out of the sentimental crap. Let's go.
About covering Maryland athletics, because this is what I think the people listen to us for, not to hear us, spouse to each other. All right. So across our 4 years, give me your favorite coach, favorite player, favorite team that you covered, and the most miserable coach, player, or person that we interviewed.
It's crazy. We're really throwing some people under the bus here. Matt Shaw.
Yep, I agree.
Matt Shaw was not a great interviewer. Matt Shaw, elite Terp alum, really killed it with the Cubs. Terrible, terrible person to interview.
Yeah. Maybe if we asked him about the funeral.
I've been told that. Jesus Christ, Mike. I've been told that. Our interview
responses if we asked him. That's all I'm saying.
I'm sure. I've been told that our podcast, he reflected on it, and now that's why he made it to the major leagues. That's what I was told.
Yeah, I mean, you're probably right. I'll say for the toughest interview that we had to do, there were a couple. In terms of like Bruce Perry, I love Bruce. I think he's a great interviewer. The connection that he had was the worst I've ever seen. Yeah. He filmed that on a potato.
We recorded that like 10 different spots. It took like 2 hours for a 20-minute recording.
Yeah, it was not
to the show. He doesn't just listen to it; he watches it. So when he called me, tell me about the interview with Bruce. He was like, "Man, that interview with Bruce was crazy. He was in the car, he was in the backyard, he was in the dining room, he was in the living room,
the bathtub."
That was crazy. But I'm going to give you a different answer for who I thought was maybe our worst interview. This is a name you guys probably don't know. Colleen Carrion. She was brutal. The director of sports nutrition, man. That was.
No, I actually liked the interview. You asked her to make a plate. That was a fun interview.
That was good.
We're having a rapid fire question, Sam. Come on.
I'll get on it, next episode.
Yeah, next episode.
I like Colleen, does a good job. I love that interview. Brendan, what about you?
The Matt Shaw one was not my favorite one. I think my least favorite one was probably the Megan Ryan Nemser episode because she made us cut stuff out that was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like, what do you like better, New Jersey or Maryland pizza? And she emailed us after and was like, can you please take that out? And then look what happened.
I was like, are we serious? I was like, come on.
She also was pretty upset about a clip we put out last fall and basically called for a job, and sure enough, she had to go, and there's accusations.
Yeah. You know what other coach was upset about a clip that we put out?
Oh, God.
You know what else other coach was upset about a clip we put out questioning his job? And then what happened?
This is where we're gonna wrap up this episode.
What about your favorite player and favorite coach that we've covered? This isn't just who we've interviewed. I'll go first for this. My favorite player that I got the pleasure of watching at Maryland, would probably be Derek Queen. I think he was just really a joy to watch. And then favorite coach at UMD, I love Brenda Fries. I think she's awesome. She's super fun to talk to. She's great to chat with. So I'll say Brenda.
Yeah. Favorite player that I've watched at Maryland. It's hard to top Derek Queen, but I'm going to say Jameer Young. Coming in as a freshman, you're obviously excited to watch the Maryland basketball games, and he instantly gave us a classic memory of that Gold Rush game against Illinois. So even sophomore year, when they had a disappointing season, he still poured in a bunch of pretty fun performances to watch. As for favorite coach, everybody knows what's going to be my answer. It's going to be Matt Swope. Matt Swope's the man. I couldn't be more confident in him being able to lead this program going forward. Brenda, like you said, also great with the media. Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed my time here at Maryland.
Well said, Mike. I'll take it from there. My favorite coach, I think, Sasha Surovsky. He's always a fun guy to interview. Always has some very good takes. Helped me out with some stories when I was over in London with the Povich Center. I think what he's doing for the game of soccer is super important. So love talking to him. There's a couple players that hold a special place in my heart. One of them, Colin Griffith, just because of that moment I had with Cavett, like my first ever. Hey, we had 45 minutes into the final episode. Cavett mentioned. Moment I had with Cavett, which has been well documented. I was like, Colin's going to score here. He scored. It was super cool. Always felt bonded in that way. And then I think this is probably a weird answer, but Julian Reese, not always the best player. He definitely had some frustrating moments. He's had a pretty good start to his NBA career. Just a constant. I can always hear in the back of my head from Baltimore, Maryland, Juju Reese, when he gets announced at games. It's always the last one off the bench. Brings chills, honestly, to hear that right now. Pretty special moment. So Julian Reese, I would say, was just a fun guy to cover. And I think what I love so much about him is that there are so few guys in college basketball right now that are going to stay at the same school for all 4 years. He was obviously one of those guys. So that was special to me. I think the thing I'm going to miss most about this podcast is the after hours chats when we dive into some absurd Maryland sports theories, talk about some articles you guys are working on. Just the personal side of it. Obviously doing the episodes are fun, but getting to chop it up and discuss some absolutely wild takes about UNC football and just some good old stuff. Wild takes we have about women's lacrosse, just like really crazy stuff that we're gonna throw on a dartboard and see what you guys think is a good take. So that's what I'm gonna miss the most.
Yeah, agreed. Love you guys. Thank you all. Just before we get out of here, quick shout outs. You mentioned Cavett. Cavett was with us for the first season. Appreciate him for starting the podcast. Shout out to Eddie Calkins, elite social media manager. Love him. He's graduating, so congratulations to him. Audrey, who's listening to this right now as we finish up recording, been made working with this pod so easy. I wouldn't be able to do it if it weren't for her. All of our bosses from TSC to the Testudo boys with Emmett and Andrew, and then Matt, were great. And then Ahmed this year has been awesome as well. Really enjoyed having him on. And then all of you, the listeners, you guys have allowed us to keep doing this. You've allowed us to, put out our random bullshit and thoughts to a bigger audience. And it wouldn't be possible if you didn't tune in. So whether you just listen to the interviews or you listen to the whole episode and you're sicko enough to make it to this point, we really appreciate you. And listen, podcasting, like Johnson had said, anybody can have a podcast, but not everybody can connect with our fans as much as we get the chance to. So appreciate you guys all for listening. For the last time, I
have one producer's note actually. The terrific Terp being named for this episode is Irene Knox. It was a very easy decision because she was the terrific Terp of this podcast. I will never forget Irene Knox as long as I live. So it didn't make sense to crown anybody else this final episode. I
hope that if you give a speech at my wedding one day, you mention Irene Knox. Like, slip it in there somehow, okay?
Maybe if you marry a lady with the last name Irene or the first name Knox, then then it'll be slightly more relevant. Yeah. But I'll do what I can. Final producer's note: look out for a bonus episode. That's all I got.
Yes, not just the last one, but in terms of standard episodes, we appreciate you guys tuning in. Thank you so much. And one last time for Under the Shell, check us out on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the social media platforms. Who knows? Maybe over the next couple years, we'll record some emergency episodes and keep coming back. We love you guys. Follow us on Twitter, Sam, Brendan, and Michael. For the last time, have a good evening. Under the Shell out.
You're listening to Under the Shell Podcast. After all these years, still the best in America.